Hello all. Welcome to Vizuara AI Lab presents Machine Learning in Production lecture series. We are on lecture 5 and we have covered some important concepts in last 4 lectures. If you are new to this series, I recommend you to watch those 4 lectures and come to lecture 5, continuation of lecture 3, lecture 4 and lecture 5. If you don't have enough time, then you can start with lecture 3 and come back on lecture 5 so that you get a complete flow of what we are talking about. So the topic for our lecture 5 will be communication and logistics of project. Important. So what we will cover in this lecture? We'll cover structuring planning meetings for ML project work, soliciting feedback from cross-functional team to ensure project health, conducting research, experimentation and prototyping to minimize risk. You will ask me question, Prathamesh, we have been learning about something similar to this from last 4 lectures. What's new into this lecture? So, I would like you to wait for now. As I proceed towards the end of the lecture, you'll understand what all new concepts are added. Because when you say about experimentation, so what we have learned in lecture 3 and lecture 4 about experimentation, that is not just enough. There is way more other aspects that need to be considered. And that's why you may find some concepts that are being repeated throughout the lecture series, but they're highly important. And without repeating them, you can't connect them to next lectures or next concepts. Because of that, we have to revise it. So be more patient. Like we will be soon finishing the theory part of this, and then we'll move for the practical aspect, that is coding part. We'll learn AWS, SageMaker, and we'll go through that part as well soon. But before going to that part, this theory foundations must be very clear. Now, if someone is new to this lecture, we would like to tell you that in last lecture we have covered why demos are important and planning versus scoping, idea board and weighted matrix. So, weighted matrix will help you to give unbiased decision so that you can go ahead with either option A, option B, option C with respect to the highest score. Then you have an idea board. In idea board, you write your ideas and then write a 2 to 3 lines summary and assign a risk level and time to implement. According to these two factors, you finalize which 2-3 approach you have to go for prototyping. Then we have also seen experimental scoping, that how scoping can be performed in ML tasks. Then we also saw why demos are very much important. And we saw how Blinkit delivery system used these features and demo system so effectively that your portal gets updated whenever it's raining. If it's traffic congestion, your delivery time gets updated. So this is how when you plan frequent demos, after each feature, you get a feedback from the customer or stakeholders. Then you move to next features. Along this line, when you do follow this same methodology, by the end of the project, you will develop a very successful project. That may not be the best model, but for that case, it is best performed model. So that's why planning demos is very important. This is what we have learned in lecture 4. Now let us begin with lecture 5, that why DS projects struggle to gain adoption. Now we'll see some cases, that is misaligned language. Talking about ROC AUC when stakeholder cares about false customer block. Now let us take an example of Netflix. So when you watch movies, you see there is trending now movies. And now when as a data science team, I want to predict which are the top 5 trending movies. And when I predict it, I say, okay, ROC is 0.87 and AUC is 0.91. And this is the best score we got ever. Stakeholders might say, are you speaking alien? What do you mean by ROC AUC? Please show us what are top 5 trending movies or web series. And then they'll compare with other platforms or other social media buzz that are these 5 that most trending one. Then only they'll satisfy that okay, the model is performing well. So the misaligned language, you were talking about ROC UC, you were using data science lingo, but they wanted a simplified, a real life way real life approach to evaluate your model. Then, over communicating technical depth. Deep dive into model tuning, where the stakeholder wants to know, will this help me hit my revenue target? So, when you were communicating that these are the top 5 trending models, you immediately told the stakeholders that I have set this as a dropout value, then this was the architecture I used, and I have used this collaborative filtering, lot of this stuff. But again, they'll ask, what's the probability that a customer will watch one movie out of this 5? They want the customer to at least binge watch 2 to 3 series which are trending so that they can hit a revenue target. This is what is over communicating technical depth looks like. Then, lack of shared problem definition. We often forget that what is the definition of success. We assume definition of success in different way, and the stakeholders have different way of success or measuring success. They may say, what does success look like to you? So you might think I want to do a recommender system, so I'll put top 5 movies at top in the portal, or I'll show the top 5 trending web series or OTT shows on the website. But as a stakeholder in the Indian market, I want to target youth because India has the largest population of youth. And I want the shows that are relevant to youth to be trending, not just top 5 trending based on the statistics. So this is the different assumption of success. But as a data science team, I should try to match the success definition of stakeholder, not my own assumed definition. So that's why lack of shared problem definition is one of the reasons. That's why the problem doesn't align adoption. Then assuming shared context. DS team knows the data gaps, business team doesn't, and that expects a perfect prediction. People are watching XYZ movie, then it should be suddenly in top trending movies after an hour. But this might be very difficult for you. But business stakeholders might say, we want real time updates on the trending series. Or they might say, they want real time trending, or they might say they want real time recommendation system based upon the trends. But there are some data gaps. It's not possible to implement in within this time frame. So at that point, you must communicate that these are the data gaps. You should not keep silent. You should not keep that gaps with you. And if you don't share it with business team, they won't know it. They would assume that you are able to do it, and they'll expect result within the defined time frame. Now, critical question to have with business unit during a first planning meeting, followed by critically important answers that will inform that what, how, when to build a solution. You can see how this all problems defined here can be solved when you ask some questions with what, how, when. Now let us see how actually we can ask these questions and what might be the motivation and outcome for these questions and how this will help us in planning our project effectively. Let us say the first question when you want to build something is why. Why do you want to build this? Now let us take an example of a fest. So this is IIT Bombay's famous fest, that is Mood Indigo. So now if I am assigned to make a website for Mood Indigo, then I will ask the question to the college fest head that why do you want this to be built? So he will either define urgency or importance. So here we might get an answer that we want to get a maximum sponsor attractions, that we want to increase our sponsors, and that's why we want our website. And we also want to sell and buy passes through website. And that's why we want to make a fest website. So here you should not assume that they just want to show schedule. No, they also want to show the events, they want to show about accommodation, they want to show about sponsorships as well. Then next question will be what? What do you expect a solution to do? So in this, I'll get an answer that what basic functionality I should have. I'll get a high level scope of the project and I would have a rough idea about what my project should look like. So I can ask them what main features you want. So they might say they want to sell the passes and then they want me to help them in booking accommodation to all the people visiting the fest. And even sponsors can contact and track their events activity. So this is what all should happen with the website. So now I know that what they are expecting. Now, next question that can be asked is how? How does your team do now? This will help to define a success criteria. As we discussed, definition of success is different for data science team and a business stakeholders. But we want to align our product with business stakeholders' requirement. And that's why we will ask the question that how does your team do this now? This will help to identify SMEs to work with, that is subject matter expert, and then can expose a critical features to build. Now they can say us that for now, just take an example. I know it was online from a long time, but let's say they used to have the passes or events booking through WhatsApp group or through a normal paper registration form. Now they want to shift it to online. So this is how the changes or critical features are to be noted down for a project or for a product development. And this, I would ask them, how does your team do it now? So the answer to this question was with the pen paper or WhatsApp group links. But now what they want is to make it fully automate and online. And that's why this is very important for me to select features. Now, the next question will be what would you consider to be the perfect solution for this? This will help define accuracy expectation, gives the target attribution metric for the project, and allows for a discussion on realistic and attainable solution expectation. For example, in this same website, if they ask that all this concert should be live premiered on the website when they're actually being happening in the campus, at that time it is very tough. So as a data science team, the live streaming is very tough to deliver in the deadline which is given to you. So you know this is what is their final expectation of a successful product. But as a data science team, you know there are gaps in that. So you will tell them the problem that live streaming of all this event is not possible. We can stream at least one event. But for streaming all the events, it's very tough and that can't be delivered in this within time frame. So this communication is very crucial. Next is how much would you pay for another company to do this for you? You can ask them that, okay, if you don't give me this project, will you outsource it for 50,000? So I'll know what is the importance of project, what the seriousness and what is the sophistication required for the project. And according to that, I'll know that whether they are very serious to give this project to me or not. Now, the next question that can be asked in this discussion is when would this solution become irrelevant? Now, if the event is in 3 days and you deliver the website in 1 month, then your project might be streaming all the live events, but it's very irrelevant. That's why asking this when it will be irrelevant is very important because then you can determine if the project is worth pursuing. If solution will be surpassed by something else, can refocus efforts on an expanded better solution. You can see there is a shift in asking questions in a discussion. The conversation now is on what should be built and how important it is for business, not on how the solution will be built. So the shift on what and how important to business is very important, one must ask. So that's why we should keep in mind that when you are assigned some project, you should first clarify this point to get what is the motivation behind this and what are the expected outcome so that you plan something realistic and that is deliverable. So a pointed discussion with this as a primary goal helps define what to build, how to build, and when to have it done by. and what is the success criteria. So this is technically summarizing what we have observed from the above figure. Now let us see why and how communication is very important. So whether it be defining the problem or whether it will be a revenue impact, communication is key in all the process. When someone has asked you to build a system, then you will ask that how will this affect conversion? What are the revenue impacts? What model we should use to make this project? And what data should we use? So these all questions can be clarified when you are communicating your problems with stakeholders. That's why there is one great rule that in ML development, always build a simplest solution to solve the problem. I hope if you are following my lecture series, then you might have seen there was one example of customer care complaint. So there, the decision tree was a simple approach rather than complex ML stuff or DL stuff. That's why sometimes simplest solutions are best to solve the problem. And when you try to solve the problem using a simplest possible solution, then remember one thing, it can be increased or the complex versions can be added to the simple one and the changes can be implemented later. But if the problem is solved with the simplest approach, then at least you can deliver the project in the within time frame. And that's why it is very important that build the simplest solution possible to solve a problem. Now let us see. There are two teams, like one follow unguided planning teams and second follows guided planning meetings. Now let us see how these two contrast scenarios will lead to the project. Let us take an example of Swiggy. Now we want to increase our sales, we want to improve UI, we want to increase user experience, and we want to hit the revenue targets. There are a lot many aspects in our mind. So, if in unguided planning meeting, the business sponsor or an executive, he might think of revenue, sales. So he'll ask, how is this going to increase the sale and customer retention? Then a business unit leader will ask, I hope our customers see value in this and our retention rate goes up. So when you use Swiggy Zomato nowadays, you can see there are some combos recommended. Have you ever wondered that combos recommend? Usually, this arrives in this personal menu, and these are recommended at 20, but you'll have some personalized combos for names. Suppose if I log in through my own Swiggy account, it will be Prathamesh. So, combos curated for Prathamesh will come here. So, that is a personalized recommendation that they are trying to meet my favorites, and this will help to retain the customers if I think, oh, they are providing me my suitable combos, or if they are providing me combos that are very apt for me, I'll definitely try to prefer to buy them. I'll be very happy. So this is what the business unit leader wants. Then a project manager, he'll ask how many sprints it will take. How this, suppose you want to recommend a personalized combos over Swiggy, then he'll ask in how many sprints will be able to complete this. What will be time frame that you deliver this feature? Nextly, a data science team lead or manager. I'll ask about GPUs that if I want to train this model and I have billions of customer and I have to provide a personalized combo with respect to each restaurant he search for, that is tremendous data. Now to train it, I need a lot of GPUs. So I'll always think about what is my computation budget. Now, as a data scientist, I may think about different algorithms to use. I may say I'll use LLMs, or I may say I'll use a collaborative filtering. There might be a contrast opinion at which algorithm to use. Front-end developer may ask what kind of data structure you are going to give to me. Suppose this all atoms are mapped with respect to a product ID in the system. Then will I get a unique product ID to show this on my UI? Or will I get some tags to show it? Suppose the bestseller, so the atom with the product ID 123 is having tag 1, that means it's a bestseller. So should I make a query such that the bestseller comes up? This can be the question by front-end developer. Data engineers, they may ask you the activity of a data is in data lake, but the purchase data is in a data warehouse. Now to simplify this, I will just give you an example. My database is a SQL database, but the browsing data is in MongoDB. This should not happen. So this question can be asked by data engineer. So now when you see everyone has a different question, none of them is matching. And because of this, project will not go in proper direction. There is no alignment. Rather, if we have a collaborative planning meeting and if we ask these four questions as a team and we discuss on these four topics, I think probably we can solve all this problem. So what these questions can be? Why we are building this? What do we want it to do? How could this go wrong? And when do we want to be this done? So what we are building with respect to Swiggy Zomato case, a personalized combo with respect to a restaurant for each unique user. Okay, this is what we are building. What do we want to do? We want this to be recommended in the menu with the name so that the personalized touch is added. Okay. How could this go wrong? And how could this go wrong? This can go wrong if we are not considering all the edge cases. Possibly, if someone has rated X food item as 2 star, and if he buyed it 3 times and you recommend it in combo, then probably this is not good. He ordered it 3 times, but the rating was low, so probably he didn't like it from that restaurant. So that's why you need to take care of ratings as well. So here it can go wrong. And then when do you want this to be done? So if my version 1 is related in September, I want version 2 to be released on Play Store on November. So in 2 months, I want this to be fixed. So these all questions are very much important to discuss. And indirectly, this will solve your all these individual questions. That's why guided planning meetings are very important and preferred over unguided planning meetings. And that's why you must always remember that working in a team is very important. You can't carry out tasks as an individual in any big company or startup or anywhere in real life as well. You'll need to have some inputs from other person. And that's why it is very important to work in team. Now let us see how is understanding the problem very important and what communication we have to do in this part. I agree there has been some content of the lecture that is being repeated and that might be boring sometimes. That's why what I have decided is to just give a brief of the theory content and I'll try to relate you with some real life examples and explain figures and try to convey the core idea so that you can feel bored. So understanding problem is more important than understanding algorithm. Right problem in the right way must be solved. Most of the ML project, as we have seen before, failed not due to because you have written wrong code, because the team lacked the shared understanding of what was being built and why. Rather, our focus was on how. That's why there is need of high level flow. That's why there is need of high level flow path diagrams that become indispensable. They help ground a team in the problem space before entering in the solution space. You might have remember or you can recall that in our school times we used to get tasked to draw a flow chart. Sometimes it were like recipe or you want to make a noodles. So a question used to come in paper that please make a flow chart of a recipe of making noodles. So we used to make some boxes. We need to note down the recipe that boiled water, then put noodles into that, then put a masala packet, all this. What was that being there? We are not chef, not a teacher who is teaching is a professional chef. But when you represent them in a flow chart, it is very easy to understand what you are trying to convey. Whether you are from that profession or not, whether you have a technical expertise or not. That's why a high level flow path diagrams are very important. Now, let us see how we can form a high level flow path diagram. So, let us understand a technical definition first. High level flow path diagram is a system wide blueprint that outlines the core components and interaction in an ML system prior to implementation. I'll show you one quick diagram. You can see this flowchart for a cloth ordering system. Cloth order, it goes to cloth supplier. It give receipt and it comes back to cloth ordering system. Clothes are order from a cloth store, and management reports goes to sales manager. And if customer orders the cloth, then he gets a receipt after buying. So this shows the interaction of different entities in the system. And with the flow chart, a business stakeholder can understand that what all people are involved in this. And as a technical person, I know if customer queries a item, then ordering system must recommend something. If he buys it, then the notification goes to clothes supplier or clothes store, and then they give or pack the order and shipped it. When they ship, the cloth ordering system must give them a receipt of, okay, you have sold one item. And if customer should get receipt from the cloth ordering system or a cloth supplier, that yes, your order is confirmed. And then this all stat will go to sales manager so that he can track sales throughout the week, throughout the month or year. So with this simple flow chart, we can understand the interaction and technical expertise required in this diagram as well. So here no technical term is used, but still as a technical person, I can frame the project according to this diagram. And as a business stakeholder, you'll understand what all entities and where to hit for the revenue. So this is the beauty of flowcharts. So it include key user actions like login, product browsing, then backend interactions, example querying user profile, then model outputs, recommend items, then fallback system, a cold start logic, and final UI integration, what user sees. Why it is important? For shared understanding, as we saw in the close order system, that for stakeholder and for the technical person, it was very important that to understand how system will work before we go for the implementation. And I was able to understand whether I be a stakeholder or technical person from that flow chart. Okay. And early risk detection, I can see what risk can occur here. I can say that what if 2, 3 clothes are ordered from different suppliers, how that case will be handled here. So I can have that critical thinking. I can find the problems in the system when I see the flowchart. I can say there can be some more entities here and there should be some decision box, yes or no. If atom order is one, then okay, go for the one clothes supplier. If atom order is more than one, and if more than one supplier is selling that, then show them all the suppliers rate. Let the customer choose which is the best one. So this is how I can find what's wrong in the system when I see the flowchart. Now let us see the recommended system, which is favorite example throughout the lecture series. So let us see if user logins, then in a web server app will be there a user ID query, a static content, and a page layout. This is kind of UI of the website, and this is the user interaction. Now, when I log in through my account, I'll get some items recommended, like top 7 items, which we have discussed in the lecture on a e-commerce site. And these are personalized recommendation and how the 7 items were recommended. Now I can see this part of diagram. That first, a personalized item list with my previous buying history. They could sort the most bought item, then a cold start or a fallback items, and global prioritized atom. If you remember, in COVID times, there was a strong demand of sanitizers, wipes. So whenever there's some global trends comes into picture, definitely we try to recommend a global prioritized item. So sanitizer, definitely a person will buy if it comes on an online e-commerce site. So like this global prioritized item plus fallback items and a personalized item list, this collectively was merged and then was shown in the output. So, as a technical person, I now understand what algorithms I have to use to make a recommendation system like this. And as a business stakeholders, I know how are you going to recommend items. And I'll now focus on the global prioritized items so that I can hit the revenue targets by collaborating with some brands which are trending globally. This is how one single flow chart diagram, a very precise, very clear, not too complex, can help me to understand entire workflow. So these diagrams are very helpful for conducting a planning discussion with a broader team. So save your architecture diagram, modeling discussion, and debates of appropriateness or debates of scoring metrics for a recommendation system to internal discussions within the DS. So this all keep it for internal DS team discussion. Let's have a discussion on this diagram with stakeholder. Let's not go into more technical details in that meeting. Now, when you have simple diagram, you understand the working of it. Now you can go more deep into that. What does it mean? Now you can see what all innovative ways of recommending items can be added. Now you can go more in detail. As I explained you in the clothes supplier one, if the same cloth is being sold by three different supplier, I can think of recommending all three and show that what amount of discount each one is applying or each one is giving. Then a user may have option to choose out of three. And this way I'll increase the user interaction, user retention. Now let us see how this detailed diagram is the extended version of the previous simple flowchart. I'll not go through each component in this diagram. Rather, I'll try to explain you that how this is the expanded version. And that I think will be key understanding from here so that no more confusion is created. Now you can see nice to have is added a commented in the flowchart. So what now let us go through it. Remove all similar items from the main page recommendation if P1 is added to cart. If a user buys P1, then we will remove all the items that are similar to P1. Now we want to increase the diversity sale. We want to increase that different items should get sold out. That's why now if P1 is sold out, we'll try to show similar items like P2 so that we can motivate user to buy item P2 or something similar to that. So a next nice to have is similar filtering to main page to account for session activity. Then nice to have fetch items that others have bought with P1 and add to product page. What approach this is? So this feature you might have seen many times. So suppose let's try to see whether this works. So let's go for Amazon and let's see. If I go to buy refrigerator, let's go for the sponsored one. Frequently brought together. So this item is brought with this TV, and this is how we can add to our system. Now, what generally people buy together, if one item out of this is selected by user, then we can suggest the second one as well. Similar to what we saw in that live example. That is nice to have. Then keep history of session data to recommend the similar things based on what the user has added to save for later. So if I go here and I just like to save it for later and I don't want to buy it now, save this session data. What if someone gets salary credited and he wishes to buy this item again? But after a long month, he forgets that he was surfing for this model. Then when he comes back to this page, then you can recommend these items on the top. You can save the session history. So this is how nice to have comments can help you in improving your product. Now this is the detailed flowchart of the previous simplified version. That's why in early planning, it's natural for team to suggest many ideas. While all should be noted, but the focus should be building a first functional MVP, minimal viable product. Nice to have features can be revisited later once the core system is stable and project complexity is better understood. You can say this was not the first flowchart diagram which we presented in front of stakeholders. We have this basic diagram first, then we added nice to have items and we went to the detailed components of each part of the flowchart diagram. That's why this nice to have features can be revisited again. But firstly, the stable diversion of the project should be presented and better understood. Now let us see what does the ideal end state look like. So many of you might be using Spotify for listening songs. So when you go to Spotify, you get a lot of options. Trending song, popular artists, popular albums and singles, popular radio, featured charts, global songs, top songs global weekly, top songs India weekly, top 50 global, top 50 India, viral 50. So we had a lot of options to choose. And if I log in into my personal account, or if you have your personal account on Spotify, you get your personalized recommended songs like top 50, and which song you listened most last week. Like that, you get a lot of recommendations. And I want a weekly report to be done for each user, and I want to recommend them top 30 song. This is what is my problem statement as a Spotify stakeholder. I go with this problem to a data science team. I want them to implement this. So what business asked was, can we personalize music for every user every week automatically? Okay. So what is indirectly the goal is to increase the user engagement and retention. Because when you offer personalized services, a customer is retained because they think they are valued. And if customer is valued, then they'll try to promote your product as well. And that's why you increase your sales and revenue. So by delivering a custom playlist every Monday based on the previously listened song, and that too for a week, can definitely match with the feelings of a user. So if he was very happy throughout the week and if you recommended the happy songs, he might feel motivated. His start of a Monday would be very good. This was the goal. So the idea discussion session involved people from product manager team, data scientist, music experts, and UI designers. Because you can see the design over is very good. You can see the same font is followed with same pattern, and Spotify logo is always on the left side of this square. So this all minute things comes under UI. So they brainstormed the idea that okay, you want to recommend the trending songs. So we also want to analyze the user listening behavior. We have to match song style and genre, and should we include the relic sentiments? So this was a wild discussion of ideas, and we discarded some ideas which we thought are not feasible. We went ahead with some of the ideas, and we collected everything in a discovery phase. Then we sketch out the system. We use a behavior graph. You can use a collaborative filtering model, natural language processing on a song metadata, audio analysis using CNN, and playlist generation engine. So why this different kind of approach algorithm you have to use? The reason for this is because you want to recommend a trending songs, for which you will need the audio analysis using CNN. Then you want to match song style and genre. For that you might need natural language processing on the song. And you want to include reliable sentiments, for which you might need again natural language processing. And then you want to show user every week the personalized music recommendation. That's why you need playlist generation engine. So now you go for the experiment, and what first should we deliver? We should always deliver MVP in the simplest form. So the Spotify focused on MVP, that is recommend 30 songs every week based on user listening and behavior of similar users. And audio feature similarity, tempo, mood, and pitch. For now, there can be some features that can be excluded because we want to deliver MVP. You might say regarding social media buzz, all the trending songs on the Instagram reels can be recommended to user as per his activity. But this can't be added in MVP. Our main focus is to show or to recommend 30 songs to user for a week based on his previous listening, based on his previous history of listening song. So for now, we'll exclude this complex feature because we want to deliver minimal viable product. One must always avoid scope creep. What is that? Marketing wanted, can we promote new artists in a playlist? Can we add a live concert recommendation? As you can see, here you have popular artist. But here we should give chance to the new artist as well. Can we make a separate column over here where we can show these are the new trending artists? But for now, as a data science team, They said, not now, we'll validate the MVP first. Let us first make a system where you get recommendations of top 30 song and that to accurate to your user engagement on the website or the app. It's not something that your mood is happy, you have been listening about happy songs and suddenly on Monday you are recommended with all sad songs. That is not a correct recommendation system. So whether if you had a feature of a list of new trending artists, but you have recommended sad songs to a person who was very happy throughout the last week, that doesn't make sense. First, we should validate our MVP. Then these all features should be added. Then deployment and outcome. Discover weekly launched in 2015. So they implemented this and they launched their product, this recommendation system. So what was the result of this? The 40 plus million users by 2016 when they launched this feature in 2015, billions of stream generated. This become a very, very important flagship feature. And customer retention, which was the main aim, was fulfilled. So we achieved the target. So Spotify succeeded because they listened broadly, experimented wisely, and focused sharply on one goal at a time without thinking what will end state look like. What if you focus on this question rather than the discussion about the features? You probably would have not cracked the MVP itself. That's why you should not think about this question at the start of project. What you should try to listen broadly to the stakeholder, experiment wisely, and focus sharply. And then eventually you will land at a good state. So without thinking what will end state look like, you should focus on what critical features need to be included and you should always aim to validate MVP. Now, let us see who is champion for this project for you. You might be wondering that what does champion means? If you can recall few minutes back, I talked that you need someone from other team or some other group to guide you, to help you, because you alone can't take your project ahead because you don't have expertise in all domain. And because of that, you need someone. And how should you find that someone? So, who is your champion for the project that you can work on while building this project? You might say that I might work who is the project owner because after all, I have to deliver the project to him. He is the main contact person for me because I should align my requirements according to the project owner needs. But project owner is too busy because he don't have only that task and but sometimes he might be managing lot of different projects, so he having detailed information about this project is very rare. So project owner might have team members who work on specific project. So if you are working on climate related project, the subject matter expert can be related to the climate department. If you are dealing project in economics, finance, then a person who has done MBA in finance might be a subject matter expert. There might be the project from company Amazon, but you don't want or you can't always contact with Amazon CEO for your project. Someone who works into the finance department of Amazon can guide you more detail for the project related to finance. That's why the subject matter expert is your champion. So why is he or she your champion? Because he has a deep connection to the problem, check work and answer questions, and provides creative ideation. The right champion shapes the project direction, and involved SME ensures clarity, speed, and smarter decisions. Now, let us see. Okay, if I am cooperating, okay, if I am connecting with subject matter expert, then how should I share my progress? How should our data science team should give updates? And for that, we should have milestone based meetings to share a progress. What do you mean by milestones? Milestone can be delivering the basic version of product with some XYZ features. And then if you get approval from the business stakeholder team, then the feature Y can be enhanced more. This way, with the iterative feedbacks, you can go ahead. But showing this versions at a definite interval is milestone based approach for the meetings. That's why it is very important that project meeting should coincide with milestones associated with the project. The project based milestone meetings should not substitute the daily meetings. Suppose we are gathered to validate our MVP and you said, "Oh, today I debugged this error." No, this is not a daily stand up meeting. You can't say that I debugged the error. You have to show a 1 month progress over there. And that's why it's not a substitute to the daily stand up meetings and it differs from this. Then there should not be overlap with team focused meetings of individual departments. If you want to show the working of app, suppose you want to show this Swiggy demo, for that you have to do meeting with front end team, UI team, business stakeholder team, someone from restaurant side, and someone from the data science team and data engineer team. You can't individually meet with them, and then you can't just combine all this aspect. You should have a meeting with all of them in person. You should show this prototype in front of all of them, and then you should take their suggestions all at once, not a individual. And it should not be the case that for individual you have a meeting and then later you schedule a group meeting. No, this should not be done. You should have a group meeting where this all departments have at least one representative from them, and in that you should have a meetings. Then always conduct with the full team present. Please make sure all team members are present because you might not know each and every aspect of the project or the type which you are explaining. So if some question arises, that point you will need other team member who has worked on this to explain. Or if someone has feedback and you don't know how to incorporate it because that was not your domain, the one who knows it should be present there so that he can incorporate that feedback. Always have the project lead present to make a final decision on contentious topics and be focused on presenting solution as it stands at the point and nothing else. Be precise and specific while presenting your solution. You should not divert or deviate from the main topic. And that's why this milestone based approach meetings are highly important to make sure that your project is going in good direction. Then, how to plan this milestone based meetings? What Google Calendar? Nowadays, we are using Calendly, or nowadays, we are using Google Calendars to schedule our meets. But if you have learned software management course in your any of the semester, and if not done, so no issue, we'll be covering it here. But probably must be familiar with the term Gantt chart. This chart will help you to time your meetings task and will help you to analyze whether you are approaching the deadline in correct way or not. This chart is a visual project planning tool that maps tasks against a timeline. It shows who does what and when, helping teams stay organized on track. Let us see few examples of this chart. So you can see here in this example, they have shown the timeline that is Jan 19, Feb 19, January to July, and quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and planning, research, design, implementation, and follow. So, how to interpret this Gantt chart? Planning, it starts somewhere around the last weeks of January and till mid of March, you should focus on planning. In the way, research should start by the mid or early start of February and should extend after the finishing of planning. Design will go from March to April mid, and then from April you should start implementing till July. And follow up should be start from June end and you should finish the project by mid July. This is how you plan your workflow with respect to this chart. And that's why this simplifies your planning process. So this ensures clarity in task ownership, deadlines, reducing confusion. They also help detect bottleneck early by visualizing dependencies. Now, the similar example which we saw just few seconds before, something similar to like that. Now you have week 1, week 2 till week 5. You are supposed to deploy the project by week 5 from the start of the project. Then you decide how much time to devote for kickoff meeting, how much time to spend on data collection and when, then how much time should we spend on model building, and then when should be review with subject matter expert should happen, and when should we deploy such that we finish the project by mid of 5th week. So this is very important that you understand how you will present your timelines into big companies. Now, let us do a fun, engaging activity. The next topic is setting up a critical decision boundaries. And the terms that we will use will be same what we have been using till last lectures and this lectures as well. So I thought that will be little boring for the audience. What we can do is we can have a case study. Now, till now, I used to give you some live examples, real life examples about how this concept are used in various company, various startups, and various big tech. Now, I would explain you critical decision boundaries in short. What it is, you have a planning phase, you have a deployment phase, you have experimentation phase, you have a scoping phase. What will be key decision boundaries in that phase so that you will say, okay, now we can move to the next phase. Okay, enough planning is done. Okay, enough scoping is done. What will be the critical decisions that will act as a boundary for that particular phase. Now, let us take an example of Yono SBI app. As a user, if you get opportunity to add something into this app, whether it might be enhance the user experience, it might be you want to add some feature, or it might be suppose instant role approval, something like that. So what would be your critical decision boundaries when you try to develop Yono SBI app? Please let me know in the comments below. I would love to see what creative and different ideas you guys can bring to improve or enhance the Yono SBI app. We will take some examples out of that in the next lecture, and then I'll try to relate your ideas then so that you can understand how this decision boundaries will help us to validate our MVP. Now, let us go to the key takeaways from the final stages before production. We'll understand this with a very interesting example of drama skit which you have to perform in your school annual function. Let us try to relate this. The concept which we will use is code complete is not a project complete. What do we mean by this? Just writing code is not enough. That doesn't make your product is deployment ready. So let us take example of the drama. Just because your script is written, you are rehearsed well, lights are ready, that doesn't mean that you can perform on the annual function. Your teacher needs to see your performance and then tell you the feedback on this and how to improve. So teacher here is a subject matter expert, and this is what we use in our production language as well, that SMEs validate output in a real environment and judge solution qualitatively. Judge the solution qualitatively. That's why code complete is not project complete. Then user acceptance testing UAT is greater than the metrics alone. Human catch what metric misses. Now let us take this drama example only. Even if all actors memorize the lines very well, at some point there can be the prop problems. There can be problem regarding lighting. Sometimes jokes may not land as well. At that point, how will you manage this? This you can understand only when you perform in front of audience. So you can have a test audience before a day of your actual play, and then so that you can validate, okay, the product is doing well. In this case, a skit is doing well. But in our technical terms, product is correctly deployed or not. Then next is pre-production review is equal to launch readiness check. With respect to this drama example, one day before, you need to check that all students are present for the next day. Every character being played has a costume. All students are gonna present tomorrow. And you need to think of backup because there might be a case someone may not come on time for the skit. And you can't miss that character because they are interconnected. So you should have some backup options ready so that everything on the day of launch is managed properly. And that's why pre-production review here will be final dress rehearsal. And in our case, it will be launch readiness check. So this is the last checkpoint before you go live. Review changes, verify performance under simulate load, ensure the analytics dashboard and the A/B data sets that are accessible to everyone, especially non-tech teams. Key takeaways from final stages before production. Now, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. What we have learned is plan with purpose, meet with intent. You should meet weekly, but if there is no agenda, there is no milestone based approach to check on your meetings, then probably that meetings are not worth. Let SME input drive validation, not just metrics. As we saw in UAT testing, that metrics are not just enough. Sometimes human catches that metrics miss. Then prototype, test, and trust real feedback. Use experimentation and user acceptance testing to explore, compare, and present only realistic models. Before launch, verify with SMEs that everything aligns with the business requirements and ensure self serve analytical access for cross functional teams. And make sure that all other cross functional operations that are being performed in the product are set up well and everything is perfect. At least the basic version is ready to launch. This is how you can launch your first basic version. And that's why what we saw till now is that planning, scoping, experimentation, and development is very important. And in this all, to interlink them, communication is a key. If you don't know how to communicate and if you don't know proper questions to ask, then sometimes you may not perform well in the project and your project might turn out to be trash. So make sure your efforts are not wasted. Try to communicate, try to ask relevant question. Please have a milestone based meetings and then only go ahead with the iterative feedback. Now we'll continue this topic in the lecture 6 as well. Till that, thank you. And let us know if you have any questions, any feedback. You can comment it down or DM me through LinkedIn as well. And please comment down that YONO SBI case study, the question which I have asked. What will be critical decision boundaries that you will take care if you want to add some feature in YONO SBI app? And what will be that feature? Please let me know that as well. Okay, thank you. See you.